place. All right. Good morning. Welcome to Postcards, everybody. I'm your host, Johnny Van West, coming to you live from Portland, Maine. Postcard Studio, where it's always 70 and sunny. And it's a beautiful day. I'm looking at my favorite white pine tree here in Maine. It is clear as a bell, literally not a cloud in the sky. It's probably 18 degrees out there or something like that. And I'm here in the Postcard Studio where it's just cozy and everything. So let's get started, shall we? We got a great guest today. Lee Zimmerman is joining us from Eastern Tennessee. Got a long history promoting other musicians, including some names that you'll recognize. And he's just more fun than a box of kittens. So stay tuned. I am going to start out in Christmas fashion with our new postcard song. All right. I'm feeling fat as a sinner and happy as a pig in the mud. I got a cute little tree and a moose in the pot, just like Elmer Fudd. And Grandma sent a letter and I had to keep me cozy and warm. You know it's Christmas time at the Postcard Studio. There's a fire in the wood stove and it's burning hot. And the lamps are lit and the family singing songs and all that groovy stuff. So put on a record and turn down the lights. You know we're gonna wait up for Santa tonight. It's Christmas time at the Postcard Studio. So put on a record and turn down the lights. You know we're gonna wait up for Santa tonight. It's Christmas time at the Postcard Studio. You know it's Christmas time at the Postcard Studio. All right. I'm your host, Jenny Van West, coming to you live from the Postcard Studio. I think I already covered that part, and I'm super duper excited to be here with my new bud, Lee Zimmerman, coming to us live from Tennessee. We're going to be talking to him in a minute. If you're new to this show, you can write us a postcard, P.O. Box 1252, Westbrook, Maine, 04098. We will read it on the air. It will go on the Wall of Love, also known formerly as the Wall of Fame. Wall of Love is more appropriate. This is just a sampling of postcards that we've gotten in the last couple of months. And pretty soon, I think I'm going to have to devote an entire wall of my house to the postcards that we've gotten and other things that have come in the mail. So do write to us, P.O. Box 1252, Westbrook, Maine, 04098. Grandma loves this show. Send us a little something, and we will do our best to write you back. And that's sort of my New Year's resolution, is to return every postcard with a postcard. That's always my goal. So any other things? Oh, yeah, we're on Mondays and Thursdays, 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And you can find us on Facebook and YouTube. And you know what to do over on Instagram. Go over and find our page there and like it. And we're bringing you stuff and whatnot, reading the mail, steals and deals on Mondays. And then on Thursdays, we have great guests, musical guests from around the place. And today is no different. So I'm thinking it's time, people. Without further ado, let's bring in our new Postcards family member, if he's willing to accept the moniker, Mr. Lee Zimmerman, bringing you in to say good morning.
Good morning, and I'm honored, Kenny, and I'm so impressed. You were so professional. You really have it locked down. I mean, I hope I can measure up.
Well, let's see. Just kidding. Yeah. No. The standards are simple here at Postcards. I think we went over them last night, and that's basically make sure you've got some light coming in the window, streaming in from the beautiful Tennessee sunshine this morning.
Yes.
And how's the weather today?
For me, it's perfect weather. It's in the upper 30s, and it's overcast. And most people would think that's pretty weird. but I love the ambiance of winter. I love the gray sky and the way the clouds hang low, and it feels like winter, and it feels like it could snow, which I'm hoping, but it doesn't snow that much. We had a white Christmas last year, and
Oh, really?
that
I
might be
forgot
too
about.
much to hope for this year. But
Yeah. Are you in the mountains?
not far from the mountains. We're about half
Okay.
an hour from the Great Smoky Mountains.
Nice.
And if you walk out of my neighborhood here, you can see the mountains in the distance, and I love it. I love the
Yeah.
mountains.
The
Yeah.
Smokies are beautiful, and
Yeah.
that's I have good memories. Actually, I went to camp over on the other side of the Smokies in North Carolina a
Oh,
couple
okay.
summers, and that was my. It's in there. It's definitely in the
Excellent.
history there. So, well, we I'm super excited that you're here. Not
I'm
only
super
because
excited that I'm here. I'm super excited that I'm anywhere.
you know what? Thank you
Boom.
for saying that. I get it. I totally get that. It's like, yeah, we woke up this morning, another day.
I know.
Cool. So we've got a whole mess of stuff to talk about this morning, and I want to just dive right in with. I'm looking over your shoulder, and I'm seeing the cover of your book there. That came out in 2019.
Well, how did that get there?
I don't know, but it's right there. So I just would love to just dive in and talk for a minute about that book, and maybe tempt you into reading a little excerpt from whatever part of it you want to read.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit.
Well, over the years, I've been writing about artists and interviewing artists for years and years. I mean, I actually started in college doing it. And so I've always had this fascination with music and musicians. I mean, I'm kind of a glorified groupie, to be honest, because I'm always in awe of musicians, and I get a thrill about knowing them and speaking with them, even though at times before I speak to them, I'm a little nervous and intimidated because you don't want to get mumble mouth.
Right.
You know about mumble,
Oh, yes. Oh, most definitely. Starstruck or whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
So, to make a long story even longer, no, that's not right. I've been doing these interviews with artists for the various publications that I write for years and years. And at a point, it seemed to me that there was a theme here that I could combine these different interviews into a book and bind them together under the heading of Americana music, because a lot of the artists, not all of them, but a lot of them are in the Americana vein.
Right.
And then at the same time, this Americana term became so prevalent. It's like Americana this, Americana that. And I thought, well, it's great. Yeah, it's a genre to talk about. But didn't Americana really originate years? I mean, if you want to be technical, if you go back 100 years to the blues music, in the Mississippi working fields, wasn't that Americana? Wasn't the music from Appalachia and Bill Monroe, bluegrass, wasn't that Americana?
Yes.
For me, the real turning point became in the late 60s with the Byrds and the Flying Burrito Brothers and Poco and the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, these bands that made an effort to take the two strands, rock and roll and country, and bring them together, to merge them. And it was called country rock, it's called roots rock. But in fact, it was Americana. I mean, that's what Americana is. So that was kind of the core of the book, trying to take the past and bring it into the present and take the historical narrative several steps further. That's
totally. Oh, that's a necessary education for all of us who either listen to or are consider ourselves a part of that very broad what has become a very broad moniker. Right. And to really honor those roots. I really appreciate that, and one of the, I got to do one thing real quick. This is important because we got a couple people listening that Amelia K. Spicer, Nice to see you here, Sarah
I know
Edmond.
her.
Yeah, you know her.
Yeah. Hi.
My dear friend Sarah Edmonds is watching with Betty down in Lynchburg, Virginia. Nice to see you here. Hi, Betty. Hi, Sarah. Laura Jones Music Company is saying she's saying you. She's I don't know if you know her. She's a dynamite artist as well.
Laura, of course I know her.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah. Hi. Gosh, it's so nice.
Yeah. See, this is what happens when you hop on someone else's podcast, right?
Yeah.
Full home week. Yeah. Yeah. So, maybe what would be real, I would just personally love is if you'd be willing. I know we talked last night about maybe having you read a little bit from the introduction to your book.
If I don't get mumble mouth, yeah, I could do that.
Yeah, and if you get mumble mouth, we have ways of dealing with that. It's okay. Greta, our intern, thank you, Greta. She'll pass you a nice little cup of coffee or something.
Where's my scrambled eggs here, Greta?
Oh, you didn't get your scrambled eggs? What about the M&Ms? Is that all set?
I specified no brown M&Ms. I haven't checked. I haven't gotten through, but I do have the bull here. She has a tendency to throw those contract writers in the fire. So sorry about that. It's her one flaw. Okay, sorry about that. I don't blame her. I do have to mention here because I'll get in big trouble if I don't mention this. My wife, Elisa Cherry, took all the pictures in the book, all of these amazing photos. She took all these great photos. So that's another sort of additive. Oh, look there. She took that cover photo. Look at that.
Shout out to Elisa. That's a great one.
Upstairs. Elisa, I mentioned you. She gets angry because I don't mention her enough. I mentioned you. Damn it. I'm sorry.
She can watch later. Okay.
All right. I just want to make sure she gets her due. In fact, and again, a little side divergent thing here. She took this amazing photo of Brandy Carlisle in the book.
Oh, nice.
And we were in Nashville for Americana Fest, and she had it blown up because she was speaking. Brandy was, not Elisa. Brandy was speaking at the Country Music Hall of Fame. So Elisa blew up the photo and made 2 copies, one for her to sign and one to give to her. And afterwards, the security people said, no, Brandy's not doing this, not doing that. But Elisa didn't care. At the end, she took the photo and ran up to the stage and said, Brandy, here. And Brandy said, oh, you want me to sign? She goes, one's for you, Brandy. It was a touching moment.
That's, I'm a huge fan of Brandy Carlisle and everything she has created and who she is and how she is and what she does with her massive platform.
Amazing.
And
she's amazing.
She's got the goods, the real deal, as they say.
She does.
Yep. Yep, for sure. So what do you think about, would you be willing to read a paragraph from your book? Maybe give us a little taste of that before we move on to other, because I've got a bunch of other things I want to talk to you about as well.
All right. Well, you know what? I'm going to read the very first paragraph in the book because it kind of gives a little bit of my backstory.
Awesome.
So here it goes. Let's hope we don't get mumble mouth. All right. I've been writing about music for well over 20 years. It suits me well. I'd like to say my ability is due in part to the communications degree that I earned at the University of Miami. But to be honest, that would be little more than excuse to justify the thousands of dollars my parents poured into that institution in the form of tuition they paid on my behalf. In all honesty, it's owed more to the fact that despite my best efforts, I've never had the talent to play an instrument, even though I always dreamed that somehow I'd be up on stage. I even wrote a song once called I Want to Be a Rock Star, not to be confused with the Byrds' similarly titled anthem, So You Want to Be a Rock and Roll Star. Nevertheless, I'm obsessed with music and have been ever since hearing echoes of Elvis and Buddy Holly back in the late 50s. Then came those first Beatle albums, followed by discs by the Stones, Herman's Hermits, and all the other architects of the British invasion. I can still recall when I acquired my first taste of the so-called new music. either bought at local record stores just beyond the fringes of my college campus, or given to me by my parents or my kind Uncle Dick. Somehow it always seemed to find its way to my radar. And that's, yeah,
Wow.
that's
That's
it. You know, it's I'm obsessed with music. If we could take this, and I don't want to because I'll stumble and then I'll fall into the thing, but I have a music basement in my house. One of the great things about living here is you have basements, and it's 3 rooms, wall to wall, of vinyl, CDs, posters, memorabilia, total obsessive collecting, just insane. But it's what I am. It's my life is so wrapped up in music. And nowadays, you know, with streams and downloads, people say, well, why do you collect physical? You can find it all on your phone. It's like, no. You know, I like the physicality. See, I mean, like, look at your studio. You have things on the wall. And that's, you know, I it's like if you collect coins, you don't want them on your phone. You want to be able to look at them and touch them. And I'm the same way. I'm starting to vent because a lot of people tend to ask me about it and why I do it, but that's why I do it. I love surrounding myself with music, and I collect it obsessively. It's
That's
crazy.
awesome. Well, I'm going to tell you, it's appreciated. I'm going to give it, just because we're talking about these things. I have recently re-entered, re-established a life with vinyl records. I lost that for a long time, and it was the magic of I made a promise to some of my Kickstarters that I was going to print vinyl, even though when the time came, I had no money left and I had to go digging a little bit. You know, when that record came in the mail, I was like, I forgot. Just imagine this for a second. I had forgotten the magic. It brought back all those times sitting on the wall to wall shag pink carpeting of my room,
We still have
listening
that here, but
listening to records on my brother's hand-me-down record player. And
wow.
that was my sanctuary, you know, those records are gone. Like, I know I could tell you exactly which 35 records I had in my collection. You know, it wasn't a big collection, it was small. But I don't know if you know these guys, but this literally just came in the
Yes,
mail.
I do. I just saw them in Nashville, and I wrote about them when I was writing about the festival, and I reviewed that record. I did.
Awesome. Okay, I'm so sorry that I didn't actually have a chance to catch up and figure that out, but
No,
this
that's
literally
fine.
came in the mail yesterday, and I just have to show people. This is if you don't have a record player anymore, or you've never had one, this is what you're missing. It is the magic of opening up. I mean, this is the first record that I've received. I haven't since I was, probably buying $9 records at Tower Records in Washington, D.C. before they shut down, and so I'm just thrilled. I'm super excited to have Lady Couch's new album. It's great. I've listened to it, but yeah,
You
they
know,
were on
I
the show a
mean,
couple weeks ago, actually.
it's an unusual name, Lady Couch, and I told and I said to them, because I'm not afraid to say irreverent things. I said, that's an unusual name, Lady Couch. But I'm tired of talking about it, so I'm going to go lay on my lady couch right now. And oh my God, the implications of that, laying on your lady couch.
Yeah, the divan. Yes, I know, right? I know. It's very.
Please work with me, Jenny. Work with me here. I don't know.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, I got you. You know. So you've got this obsessive streak about music, and you've been blessed with, it's like luck favors the prepared, as they say. So I want to step back in time for a minute, because you do have some connections with, for instance, I'm just going to say, you were part of the release of Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville, which anybody who grew up in the 70s or was alive during the 70s knows that song backwards and forwards. So would you be willing to share a little bit about how that came about, and what, what your role in that was?
Sure. I was hired by the late great ABC Records, which has since become MCA, which I don't know, all these conglomerates. So one of the first records that I was assigned to promote, as a promotion guy. My job was to get records played on the radio. And obviously, Jimmy Buffett, being from Florida, it was expected that that would be the first breakout for this particular song. And indeed, I had a lot of luck getting it played on the radio. And I got a gold record for it. And it's still hanging on the wall in my office upstairs. And I remember, going to a concert, covering a concert for Jimmy Buffett. And I was very shy, believe it or not. I was shy, and I was sort of sitting there outside the dressing room. And it's like, here I am. I don't really know what I'm supposed to do. But Jimmy Buffett came over and sat down beside me and said, thank you, and started talking and brought me out of my shell. And it was really, really cool, really cool. Had I known he was going to become such a mogul with the restaurants and everything else, I would have asked him for some dollars, but I didn't. But it was a great time. I also had the opportunity to see Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers at their very first concert as Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers.
Tell us.
After they moved out of Gainesville, Florida, when they were Mudcrutch, and their very first gig was at this tiny little bar in West Palm Beach. I just remember there were peanut shells all over the floor.
Oh, nice. It was one of those places.
Yeah, it was a dive. And they played basically the whole of their first album. They were great guys. I met them before the show. They were super guys. Tom Petty, though, had that charisma. He's a little aloof, but he had that charisma and that look. And I remember after the gig, we all walked back to their makeshift dressing room, which was a kind of kitchen area. And on the refrigerator in that kitchen area, some idiot had written, "Heartbreakers suck." Now, why would you do that? It was the band's come on. It was, obviously the Heartbreakers didn't suck.
No.
But it was very cool. And I had the opportunity to interview Mike Campbell a few months ago. I reminded him of that. And he said, "I don't remember." So, but anyway, it was neat. Yeah, it was great, in the record company promotion days, meeting people like that,
Yeah, I actually have a question about that particular concert, because Tom Petty's been probably the biggest, rock and roll North Star for me and so many other people. And I loved him even before he was cool. Like, I know he was cool from the beginning, cool, but there was a whole phase where I think, he didn't have the sudden meteoric rise and then disappear like, some of these other groups did. He was steady. His band was steady.
Right.
He was, and I think there was sort of there's a sort of a disbelief that the people go through when people are that good for that long. And there's just it just doesn't have the sort of like high, ridiculous, crazy drama. I'm sure there was crazy drama from time to time, but obviously not with, amongst band members. They stuck together. So I guess going back to that first concert, what did you have any sense of where this might go, or was it more in the context of like, well, let's just see what they can do? And
I definitely, because like I said, Petty had this aura, this charisma, this rock star image from the get-go. It was very apparent. And his manager was a British fellow named Tony Dimitriades. It's a Greek name, Dimitriades, something like that. And so I knew that he had the people behind him that would propel him forward. It just was apparent. And that first album, I really liked it. It was kind of post-punk and very dramatic. And so all the elements seemed to be there. You
got that sense about it. And when you do, I think when people do have that kind of vibe around them, and they've got the people that then it's like, okay, so a lot is possible here, and I'm so grateful that that you can tell that story and share that. I was excited when I did it. Now I want to take a deep dive into your bio. Okay.
Okay.
All right. You ready?
Yes. Okay. Yes.
Tracy Ullman once referred to you as David.
Research. Look at you. Look at you. You are a professional. Oh my God, folks. Professional. Really.
God, you know just what to say. You know just what to say. Tracy Ullman.
Yes.
Once referred to you as David Cassidy.
Oh my God.
What's your response to that?
And again, yeah, I was working for a good length of time at the Coconut Grove Playhouse. So at the time, a leading regional professional theater. And unfortunately, it's vacant now. But the theater was built as a movie house in 1926. It had one of the first air conditioning systems in South Florida. But anyway, yeah, Tracy Ullman, who I always idolized, came and did a play. I'm trying to think. It was, oh God, it was about, I don't even remember. But it was a one-woman play, and her little daughter was there with her. And again, being the starstruck individual that I am, just being around her and witness to that. And she always, because at the time, I had the same immature haircut, and and I was younger then. She goes, "Oh, it's David Cassidy. It's David Cassidy." And I have the playbill upstairs again, where she signed it to David Cassidy. It was great. I love that. I mean, what a thrill. What a thrill.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
To work with her.
I bet you felt so seen. That just, and I actually, as soon as I read that, I laughed. And part of the reason I needed to bring it up, Tracy Ullman fan. And also I was a big David Cassidy fan. And actually,
he wasn't really.
I know, he was huge. He was huge.
And pulled over for drunk driving in Florida.
Well,
David, come on.
Doesn't everybody?
But he died. He's passed away now.
Yeah.
He did pass away, didn't he? Unfortunately.
Yep.
I think he passed away.
Yeah. I think it was his little baby brother Sean who was like an icon. He was also like an icon. And my friend Sarah Edmonds, who's listening in with her mom Betty down in Lynchburg, she will remember that I had a huge crush on Sean Cassidy. So anyway, 6 degrees of separation. That's what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, hilarious.
So, if you're just joining us, this is Postcards. We are talking with the very wonderful Lee Zimmerman, new friend, and got all kinds of great stories and a book out. Amir, let's see. Let me see if I can find my banner that I so carefully set up here for you. Americana Music, Voices, Visionaries, and Pioneers of an Honest Sound. That is a beautiful title and subtitle. It's available on Amazon, but it looks like you only have one copy left there, so they might be hitting you up.
That's the poster, but I do have my copy here with some autographs of Elisa's photos. You have
signed photos in your book? Cool.
Yeah. Because when we run into people like Sam Bush or whoever, we ask them to sign it, so this is our book. And Elisa's always cautioning me, don't give this one away. Don't sell it. Because it has the autographs.
That's right. I know. Don't give away the signed copy.
No, don't do that. I have to give credit to my publisher, Texas A&M University Press, for naming the book. They named the book. And seriously, it took me about 6 months to memorize the title. I got through the Americana Music, but then it was Voices, Visionaries, and Pioneers of an Honest Sound. And I had to memorize that, but it worked out eventually.
Yeah, but it's descriptive, and I really appreciate it because it's I want to touch on that thing that's in there of honest sound.
Yeah.
And maybe maybe you could offer a comment on sort of how that how that
Yeah.
term lands in your world and what that means to you.
Well, I think it's it can go back to the roots of this music and the people that brought it over from England and Ireland and Scotland, and they transported that to the mountains and the hills of Appalachia. And it was very honest. It was part of their tradition. And I think when something is part of tradition, it is very honest. And yet at the same time, it's now transitioned. It's become very popular. It's almost like a populist movement that when you go to festivals and you see bands like Old Crow Medicine Show, and you know, groups that play this music but have rebranded it in their own image. It retains that honesty, and yet they're pioneers in a sense that they brought it forward and they've made it accessible, and it's a very populist feeling, kind of like you know, the Deadheads. You know, the Deadheads would follow the Dead around. And many of these people that appreciate this music will follow them, go from festival to festival, and feel like part of the family. So that's a very long explanation for a title.
No, it's really interesting because I appreciate you bringing up the Grateful Dead, because I apologies to all you Deadheads out there. I went through a longish phase, but I have deep respect for them. I mean, I went through a Deadhead phase. I was not like hardcore like some people, but it was actually interesting, that honest sound. And what's interesting is that it works in reverse too. It's not just going forward, because when I discovered Jerry Garcia's fascination with bluegrass, and these forms of music that were brought to and nurtured and evolved in and blended with other, African American forms and so forth to create this new kind of music. When I found his fascination with it, that's when I got interested in starting to really pursue playing music, because it was listening to, I was listening to songs like Ripple. I got really interested in I learned to play the mandolin. That was my first thing. Then later on, I got into the fiddle, and I took that all the way up into into Quebec, where I just started learning all these New England tunes and French Canadian tunes. That became my love, which is another part of the sort of diaspora of this music. It's another far down back into ancestry. So and I would say, one of the names I saw in regards to your book was Ralph Stanley. And
who I got to interview.
Let's talk about him for a minute.
About a year before he passed away, and it's the first interview in the book. And man, he was like a humble guy, as so many of these genuine musicians are. They're no pretense, and he was so humble. It was like talking to your uncle, over a dinner on the porch or something like that. Just so modest, and you think about all that he did and how deeply he's admired and revered, and just this ordinary guy. And what a thrill. I mean, I hope I never take that for granted.
I suspect you won't, and that's why you are who you are.
No, I hope not. I interviewed Guy Clark. He's in the book, and again, it's like
another legend.
Yeah. So in hindsight, having had just that brief opportunity to interact is really, really meaningful, to me. Really meaningful. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to tell you a quick story about Ralph Stanley. And it was I think it was a year or two before he passed away. He was in Maine and did a show at a wonderful nonprofit venue called One Longfellow Square here in Portland. Yeah, you may be familiar with that place. And it's kind of it's a short story, but both my sons are musicians. One is in music school now, and he was about 8 years old when he discovered he became obsessed with guitars, banjos, ukuleles, fiddles, and just was unstoppable. And he heard Ralph Stanley, and then we found out he was coming to town. It was a lot of money. It was $35 a ticket, but I got 2 tickets because I was like, this kid is like on fire about Ralph Stanley. And he woke up that morning sick as a dog, fever, the whole 9 yards. And I was just like, oh my God, what are we going to do? I can't take him into a venue like this and stuff like that. But he was like, I am going to hear Ralph Stanley. He was 8. And he was so adamant about it that, I bundled him up. We sat in the back and we only stayed for the first set. And he was sitting, I'm sorry, people, but I brought my sick kid to a Ralph Stanley show. He was sitting there like stiff as a board because he didn't feel good, but he absolutely had to be in the room with Ralph Stanley. And it was so interesting, and what a, like, even, he of course had a phenomenal band, and even at his, age, which I can't remember how old he was at that point, but it was when he was touring with that last record. And he sang some a cappella songs, which he was famous for.
Wow.
And one was the one about, I can't remember the name of it, but it's the one about, the fire at home and going to visit the neighbor and then coming back and discovering the house had burned down. I'm not going to say anything more about that, but needless to say, this is sorry to hijack your interview, Lee, but I just had to tell you that story.
It's amazing. I mean, it's those precious moments that I think life is a series of chapters, and moments, and you string them together, and sometimes they're distant, sometimes they're more immediate, but it becomes an amazing trajectory. I think everybody can claim, in their own lives, and obviously that was part of yours, and it's part of mine, and it's a great thing,
Yeah. And we're lucky to have it, lucky to have music and have, live in this age of recorded music where we have access to influences like either through digital media or, you get your new favorite LP.
Physical music. Sorry, I get on a rant.
No, let's do it.
CDs. I mean, I love CDs. But it's a forced obsolescence. They're not putting players in cars. They're not putting them on the computer.
That's right.
And
I think there's going to be a rebellion the same way that LPs have come back. It might take a minute because there's a lot of money driving that. But I agree.
Cassettes are coming back. You know that.
That's what I'm talking about. Mixtapes are coming back in the next couple Christmases, people. There's going to be a mixtape revolution. I was thinking about it last night. I was like, do I really want to go there? And I was like, yeah, I kind of do want to go there. I miss lining up the track on the record and hitting record on the tape player and just letting it do its magic and that moment of being in that space and having to think ahead because you can't just go and rearrange tracks. You got to think about it.
Yeah.
And there's a spontaneous in the moment kind of experience that's really refreshing for the mind. It's a very different way to listen to music, enjoy music. And so anyway, again, hijacking your interview. You're inspiring me, Lee.
Not at all. No.
So, well, would you be willing to read a tiny bit more from that introduction to your book? I know we've been talking about your book a lot, but we need to touch on other things too. We've got a little bit of time, but I want to hear just a snippet more of your book, if you don't mind.
All right. I mean, again, from the introduction, sort of the premise of the book, and I'll start with that. It's the term Americana covers a wide gamut of sounds and styles. In its strictest sense, it's a blanket term for bluegrass, country, mountain music, rockabilly, soul, and the blues. By a broader definition, it can encompass all the trails and side routes that lead on from there. Hank Williams, Johnny Cash, Carl Perkins, and Tom Petty can all lay claim to extending the range of Americana, but so can Kinky Friedman, Elvis Costello, Solomon Burke, and Jason Isbell. It's both new and old, classic and contemporary, trendy and traditional. So Americana music, voices, visionaries, and pioneers of an honest sound, will attempt to define that trajectory by first taking a look at Americana's origins, and then through interviews with those who were responsible for taking it forward, providing essential context while exploring new directions that led toward the present and the future. So, yeah, that was
Awesome.
the premise of the book. Yeah.
All right. So we got a question here from Lori Jones. When does the audio book come out, narrated by Lee?
Oh my gosh, Lori Jones, you're so kind. I'm afraid, I don't know if I could get through one chapter without mumble mouth. Maybe I should have you do it, Lori Jones.
That's what editors are for.
I know, but when you speak it, but Lori Jones is a professional. Maybe I should have her read it or something. The problem with that, though, seriously, is that the majority of this book, other than the intro and the introductory info about each chapter, many of these are Q&As. So,
Yeah.
for example, if I were to read the chapter with David Crosby, I'd have to do a David Crosby impression. I'd have to ask a question in my voice and then answer it as David Crosby.
This is true. This is true. Okay, well, there you go.
I don't know.
That's a tall order. That requires you to be Tracy Ullman.
Yes, I used to do some impressions, but all my impressions are people who are dead now. So I don't know.
Okay, it's a question mark. It's a question mark. I have to say hello to a couple more people here. We've got Evelyn Dean listening in. Hello. Bruce Bjork, nice to see you here. And if you're just joining us, this is Postcards coming to you live from Portland, Maine. We're speaking with the very wonderful new Postcards pal, Lee Zimmerman, coming to us live from Eastern Tennessee. Sorry, Eastern Tennessee. Woo!
You live in Nashville. No, folks.
No,
Tennessee to Nashville.
Eastern Tennessee people. Which, by the way, I'm just going to let everybody know, this Eastern Tennessee is not on Central Time. You are on East Coast time.
I
did not know that. I learned something.
You cannot. I was told this early on. You can't say Eastern Tennessee. It's East Tennessee.
Okay, thank you for the correction. East Tennessee.
Correcting me, so I'm passing it forward.
Yeah. So, all right. So you've got, some other things that you're involved with heavily, which is interviewing people live. And maybe you could tell us a little bit about that, and I'll share some links for people.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. We just started this series at a local venue called The Bird and the Book, and it's upstairs. They have a bookstore and they have a cafe, and then downstairs they have this room, which is a great sort of intimate listening room. And the owner, Lisa, was really kind enough to suggest to me, why don't we do a music series here? And having interviewed artists forever and enjoying interviewing artists, said, let's do something where we do it like the old Actors Studio. If you remember the Actors Studio, they'd sit there and say, well, Tony Curtis, how did you get started, in your early? So I said, why don't we do this with musicians? But we'll have the extra component of the interview, and they can play some music on acoustic guitar, in a very stripped down setting. So I don't know that it was such a unique concept, but people said, yeah, nobody's doing that. So we do that now. The first Wednesday of every month, we bring in local artists and national artists. Great. And we talk to them and expose people to their music, and more than that, to what they are like and what motivates them. So you really understand the person behind the songs. And it's exciting for me because when I was growing up, I always wanted to be Johnny Carson. So now, I'm not Johnny Carson, but I can sit there behind the
you're David Cassidy.
Yeah.
It's but fun. Sorry, go ahead.
I just said we had our first one December 1st with Dana Cooper, a wonderful singer-songwriter from Nashville. And the next one will be January 5th with two wonderful musicians, Mick Harrison and Kevin Abernathy, who are in a band called Mick Harrison and the High Score. they're from Knoxville, but they've made records, so they have a national following.
Yeah.
So it's I'm really, really, really excited about that. Oh, and look, you just put up a banner about my podcast too.
Yeah, and I'm gonna copy that. I'll put it in the comments for people. My Backstage Pass podcast. That's the new one. And
we're not competing, are we? We're not competing because you're visual and ours.
Oh God, no.
No, we're not.
You know what? I just love finding. I mean, I'm excited to go. Hop on board that train and follow along and just really enjoy. I love that there's local and national acts simultaneously. I'm a big believer in that because it's such a great experience for everybody, to have, because I think sometimes when people, maybe, folks don't necessarily realize this, but when people have an opportunity to build that bigger musical life, or they get signed by and get a decent record deal, or they have an opportunity to go on tour all over the place and get, 10,000 fans, there is something about doing that it's just fundamentally feels different than, being like, working hard like you're in a cement factory every single day to try and get your chops up so that you can get on a stage to begin with, and there's a fire and a burn that's there with people who are doing it for their local, their families in the room, or their local friends are in the room. They have a really solid local following. It's a different kind of a feeling. And so, and not everybody wants to, or has the opportunity to, or wants to, I'll say it again, have that bigger life. So anyway, I just love the whole concept, and I'm looking forward to following along with you. So,
thank you. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. The fascination has never left me. And the more artists that I get to meet and speak with, and in many cases become friends with, I mean, it's like so cool to me. I really, really love it. And part of that, you put the banner up on the screen, my Backstage Pass, a blatant plug. That's a podcast that I do with my pal Billy Hubbard, and it's we've interviewed some amazing artists. I mean, we interviewed Ray Stevens. We interviewed Melanie. If anybody remembers Melanie, I mean, beautiful people, Woodstock, and we interviewed Noel Paul Stuckey of Peter, Paul and Mary. So, I mean,
I love him. Yeah.
Oh, he's great. So all these opportunities to speak with these legends and one-on-one, and it's just awe-inspiring sometimes. It really is. It's really very cool.
Yeah, totally. So I want to hop over to you've got a website, Stories Beyond the Music, which looks to be, I'm just getting into your whole deal, Lee. Okay. I'm just meeting you for the first time. And so are some of our listeners. Some of them know you very well.
Be careful where you tread there, Jenny. That whole deal.
Don't worry.
Deeper, and we don't know what's at the end of that craziness. Yeah.
Listen, it's not going to, I know, but it's not going to get further than the whole Tracy Ullman thing. Okay. I just promise you that. I'm never going to forget that one. But I want to pull up this website right quick. And this is where you can find, it looks like all of your stuff is in this one place.
My audition reel, basically. It's a sampling really of some of the writing that I've had. And, if people want anything from me, they can go there and say, hey, do something for us.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of love it there.
Yeah.
Love it. We love
it. And there's just like it's a feast. It's a feast.
Warren Haynes. Yeah. I'm seeing this now. I haven't seen this for a while myself. You know.
Yeah, there's just all kinds of great writing on here by you and a few other people. Looks like Mark Sater's on here. And
Mark is the webmaster, and Mark put this all together because I'm
it's beautiful.
Idiot. I don't know how to do this. So Mark was kind enough to assemble this, I guess you would say. and so it just, again, it gives people a sampling of what I do. If I'm trying to connect with a new editor, I just say, go down there, just click on there, and you'll see, and
Yeah.
it works.
So I'll put this in the comments for folks. If you're looking for, sort of your next favorite artist or record, or you just want to see your folks appreciated by somebody who's passionate about music and been promoting and writing about this for a long time, please go check out storiesbeyondthemusic.com, which is a wonderful.
Again, so professional. You just hit a button, and
Oh, you're so nice.
No, you're so professional. Oh, appreciate Jenny Van West. She is a pro.
Oh, thanks, Lee. I appreciate that so much. So, there's a, if you're just joining us, let me just do a quick plug and give you a chance to rest your voice for 2 seconds. If you're just joining us for the first time, or you're listening late at night, I want to give a shout out to our late night listeners and our asynchronous listeners. Particularly, I want to say hello to my Aunt Marge down in Charlotte. It was really nice to get an email from you the other day, and sending lots of love to you and all the cousins and all the family and grandchildren and great-grandchildren for the holidays. I want to say hi to my father-in-law, Jim Van West, my brother-in-law, Peter Van West. These are some of my hardcore asynchronous listeners. And I haven't seen Diggy Cat here this morning, so I'm going to give you a shout-out because he's always here, and I haven't seen him this morning. So hope you're doing well, Diggy. We haven't talked about television. You had some stints in television, and I'm curious about what, if you don't mind, what that was and what you were doing there and how that impacted sort of your overall jam.
What was I doing there? Well, my boss would always ask me, what are you doing here? We have a paycheck here, but is it justified? Actually, I worked for one of the CBS owned and operated stations in South Florida. I was the communications director, and not every TV station has a communications director. It's more of a PR position for the TV station, but it was great because, again, I'm fascinated with TV, and that also offered me some chances to indulge in my music because I was kind of the house hippie and the music guy. And one day, our entertainment reporter landed an interview with Paul McCartney and called us up and said, "Get down here. We've got Paul McCartney." And we all piled into the station van. And I was the PR guy. What was I doing there? I wasn't a photog, but we got to meet Paul McCartney, interview him. And she and I were the only people at his hour-and-a-half sound check at the arena where he was going to play the next day. And so, and again, I met Neil Young through that job. I met the Rascals. So, I mean, that wasn't really my gig. My gig was to promote the station and to get our TV talent to go out and do appearances. But it kind of tied together. And so, yeah, TV was fun. It was fun. Yeah.
Well, and sometimes these things don't make sense until we look back at them, and then we're like, oh, well, that makes sense now. It probably made sense as soon as Paul McCartney walked in. But it's like, but sometimes we don't know what the sort of the main deal with our life is until we kind of look back and be like, oh, that's what I was interested in. And I think I love what you're saying about how there's so many different things that motivate people. One of the things I think is so important is to have some understanding with our own selves about what that is and why we're doing things. Because if it's just to meet famous people, then there's ways to do that, and then you're going to be fighting for that your whole life. But if the passion for the music is so deep, like you're describing, it's that thread that's the common thread that you're talking about. Yeah. That's been so like having a deeper reason for doing things, and that's it's just great to hear about it. It's great to hear about it.
I never, when I was in school, I never knew what I wanted to do. I had no idea. I knew I wanted to be Johnny Carson, but I knew that wouldn't happen. But I really didn't know. So I think music really took me to where I wanted to be. And now it's so much a part of my being so that I can define myself in that way. And you know, you have to have something to connect with. You have to have an anchor, and that was what it was for me. The music, that's what it was for me, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Well, you know what? We're just about out of time.
Dang.
I know. We got to do this again sometime. I know we will.
Marathon. Come on.
Yeah, we could have a great time. It's been an absolute pleasure to have a conversation with you this morning, Lee. I can't thank you enough for making the time.
Thank
and you. Sharing.
I want to do this again. I want to do this again. I love this. This is so wonderful.
Maybe we should make it a regular December kind of a deal, kind of kicking off the holiday season. Let's talk about some records that people might want to think about buying. If you have any comment on that right now, this is your big chance.
2021. One record off the top of my head by Amy Speace.
Okay, how do you spell her last name? I forget.
Speace. Speace.
Got it.
Speace. And we've met Amy. If you're watching, I'm plugging you. I think there was her record's called There Were Horses There. There used to be horses, but it's such a tender record.
Beautiful.
So yeah, I would definitely check out Amy Speace. Wonderful record. And Corby Lenker. Corby, a great artist.
Okay, let me say that one more time so I can type it in there.
Corby Lenker, KorbyLenker. Corby Lenker.
Corby Lenker. Okay, there's another artist too.
They need people to know that. God, you're a professional. Folks,
I've been doing this a minute. I told you.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Yeah. So Amy Speace, Corby Lenker, we're giving you a shout out this morning. You got the full support of Lee Zimmerman, and we're going to go add you to our rotations and check out your music. And if you're looking for something special for the indie music lover in your life, Americana music lover in your life, Amy Speace, Corby Lenker, recommended here on Postcards.
And Andrew Leahy, Leahey. Sorry.
One more time.
Andrew.
Oh, Andrew.
Do you know Andrew?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes. Leahey, right?
Yeah, he's a buddy of mine too.
Yeah, he's exceptional.
You're quick. Look at you.
Hey, the summer after my senior year in high school, I spent some time with Typing Tutor. Okay, and then I went to work for a whole bunch of different high tech companies during the tech boom in Seattle, and became the fastest typist ever. But it's
Yeah, you could be a court reporter.
Yeah, I could be a court reporter.
Yeah.
That's actually going to be my backup plan now. Thank you.
You don't need a backup plan, Jenny Van West. You got it nailed.
Oh, thanks, Lee. Well, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Can't thank you enough. Thank you everybody for chiming in, listening. It's been great to be here with you guys. You got all kinds of fun reading to do. Get a hold of Lee's book if you can. Get them while they're hot, people, because there's like one copy left on Amazon. I'm going to go snap it up after the show. If it's not gone already. What's that? Yeah. I went to look on Amazon. It said order
this year. Royals, come on.
Only one left in stock. Order soon. Aren't you glad you came on Postcards? Now you know.
I love that.
So, Amy's record, There Used to Be Horses Here. That's what Amelia just chimed in on.
Amy's, yeah.
And Sarah Edmonds, I ordered 2. So there you go. I don't know, 2 of something. I'm not sure what, but something's been ordered and someone's making, you can hear the ching ching.
Get a check.
I like to think it's the sound of those little change things that the guys at the gas station used to have on their belt. Cha-ching, ching. I wanted to work at a gas station just to have one of those. So anyway, we're going to go out with the Postcard song in usual fashion. And if you care to sing along asynchronously or just enjoy, all is good. Lee Zimmerman, you're the best. Thanks for being on Postcard.
You're the best. I love you, Jenny.
I love you too. I love you back. And today's brought to you by the Key of A. When you're down and you're blue and you don't know what to do, just write a postcard. When you're feeling fine and there's something on your mind, just write a postcard. How about some guitar? Don't you know Grandma loves this show? She listens every time. You don't need a reason, yeah. You don't need a rhyme to write a postcard to P.O. Box 1252. Just write a postcard. 04098. Just write a postcard to Westbrook, Maine. 'Cause Grandma loves this show. Thanks again, Lee Zimmerman, and we'll see you guys next time.